What's up guys, ATCG here, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we're doing a deck that got a huge boost from the new set Eternity Code, and it's a deck that we haven't seen for quite a while, and it's Traptrix. We last saw this deck as a meta contender during the HUD format, which was not a pure deck, we was playing Hand Artifact Traptrix, but now the deck has the tools to actually do a lot of amazing things. And it's not just from the direct support it got from Eternity Code, but there's also one card that came out in this set that actually is really huge for this deck. And I'm going to show you once I get to the deck profile. So before we begin, if you end up enjoying this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more amazing content. And now, let's get to the deck profile. So to start off, play 3 Traptrix Murmella, the best one in the deck because it searches all your trap cards, and on special summon she pops back row, so she's the one you want to keep spamming out with Sarah so you can clear your opponent's back row and keep getting more advantage on your field. And all the Traptrix monsters are level 4, which is actually huge because you can incorporate the rank 4 toolbox engine, which is probably the best rank out of any Xyz monsters. The second Traptrix, play 3 Mantis because Mantis searches you any monster, and her second effect might seem a little bit irrelevant at first, but it's actually really good because she can, as a quick effect, reset your back row so you can get back one from the field to your hand and set another one. And this is really good because sometimes you set your back row back with Dioneia, your trap hole cards, but then these cards, if you don't end up using them, they will get banished during the next end phase of your turn. But if you get them back to your hand with Mantis and you reset them, then this restriction wears off, so you can keep them forever. And that's pretty much how you keep recycling advantage from your graveyard. It's actually really good. This deck, if it gets going, it's kind of like Altergeist. It has a slow start, but once it starts doing all its things, then it pretty much feels unfair and unstoppable. 3 Dioneia, she's the Wolfpark of the deck. On normal summon, she brings back a Traptrix from the grave, so you can make your easy rank 4s with her, and on special summon she sets one of your whole normal traps from your graveyard, and this is the effect that says it's going to banish it during the end phase of your next turn, but if you combo it with Mantis, then you're going to keep this card for as long as you want until you end up using it. These are the 3 of Traptrix. Now there are 3 more in the main deck, which I play all of them, just a one-off, because they all have their use, and I just want to have them just in case, because they're easy to access with Sarah. So the first one is Atrax. She helps you play around evenly matched because you can use your whole normal traps from your hand, and also helps you play around negation because if your opponent has a Hextech on the field, she prevents your normal trap cards from being negated, so your opponent cannot negate their activations with Hextech, so she's really good. 1 Nepenthes. You usually bring out Nepenthes from the deck with your Sarah if you have a lot of whole normal traps in the field, because when you use them, you can either special summon a Traptrix or you can add a Traptrix from your deck, so you can do whatever you want with her, and she's 2000 defense, it's not easy to deal with. And if you keep using your whole normal trap cards, not only will you get advantage from Sarah, but you will also get advantage from your Nepenthes as well. And the last one is actually a new one from Dual Overload. It's a TCG exclusive, Traptrix GNLC. She's not the best card in the world, but she's not bad because she helps you get a kind of an advantage. You can tribute herself to set a trap hole from your graveyard, and then you can set another one from your deck, and you banish them when they get used. So she's a good card to, if you used one trap hole and you can bring her out with Sarah, then you can set more cards from your deck and you have a lot of disruption. And the last monster in the deck is actually the reason Eternity Code made this deck so much better, but not just this deck, you're going to see this card a lot from here on out, and it's Parallel Exceed. I cannot believe this card is actually a common in the set. That was actually really surprising. This card is so good. If you just link summon any monster, you can special summon from your hand, and you can special summon another one from your deck. And you're wondering why this card helps the rank 4 toolbox, because if this card is summoned by its own effect, which is both this copy and the one it brings out from the deck, it becomes level 4. So you just link summoning Sarah and having this in your hand means that you have Sarah and a rank 4 on the field, which is actually really good. Back in the day, you could only use Shadebring and Dean to use Sarah's effect to get a rank 4, but now you do not even need to have Shadebring and Dean, just have a Parallel Exceed and you can get a rank 4, so you won't have just a Sarah on the field, which is huge, because if you summon Rafflesia, that means you can protect your Sarah, because one of the big weaknesses of the deck is that your opponent can just normal summon anything and run over Sarah, and that's pretty much what's all she wrote for this monster, because she only has 800 attack. But if you can summon Rafflesia with Sarah turn 1, then Rafflesia will protect your Sarah. So having this card in the deck is actually really amazing. Now moving on to the spells, I played just 1 spell card in the deck, which helps the deck going second, because like all trap decks, this deck struggles going second. So I main deck 3 Super Poly. With Master Rule 5, it's very easy to use this card. Before you could not use it because you needed to have your Sarah in the extra monster zone, but now you can just super poly your opponent's monsters, summon anything in the main monster zone, and just summon Sarah in the extra monster zone and keep going. So this card is really good and can also act as a disruption if you end up going first, which you always want to go first. For the traps, play just 4 trap holes. I don't think you need more because they're not the best cards, but you need to have them in your deck so you can search them. So 2 bottomless trap hole. With Salamangreys not being as relevant anymore, I think this card is actually really good. Even against decks like Orcust, you don't have to wait until they summon Dinkyusu to use it, just use this on Galatia and that's pretty much it. Also against decks like Eldritch, which are becoming really relevant right now, or Adamacia, you can just bottomless the Eldritch and they will not be able to keep using it from the graveyard because Eldritch has infinite revival effects, so if you just banish it, it's really amazing. Same thing with the level 6 Synchro monsters with Adamacia. If they cannot get their tuners on the field when they have this, then they won't be able to summon the Dragite, so you can bounce your core field, which is actually what you want to do against decks like this. You just need to know the choke point of each of these decks, so you can use the trap cards at the correct timing, which is why these trap decks, well, a lot of people seem to think that they don't require skill. They actually require more skill than a combo decks, because combo decks, you just learn the combos and you just do them every single game. While you're playing a trap deck, you need to know the matchups. You need to know exactly what your opponent's deck is doing. You need to know exactly how powerful it is and when you can just throw this trap card and completely stop it in its tracks. So that's why I think these decks actually require a lot more skill to play. Now back to the deck, play 2 of the new card, Gravedigger Trap Hole. This card is actually really good for one specific reason. It stops Nibiru. Once you do the combo with Shade Brigandine, when you summon your Xyz monster, it's actually the 5th summon, so even though it doesn't seem like it, this deck can actually easily get Nibiru turn 1. So same thing with Parallel Exceed, it's again the 5th summon, the Xyz monster you're going to summon. So having this means that if you summon your Afflesia as the 5th monster, if your opponent tries to Nibiru, you're going to stop Nibiru with this card and burn them for 2k. And also it's really good against certain decks. Decks like Orcust can really get hurt by this deck if you just stop their Orcust Nightmare from the graveyard. Decks like Salamangreif, if you stop the Jack Jaguar. It has a lot of uses. It's not the most generic trap hole, but it's still a really good card to have in the deck. Now play 3 Traptrix, because Traptrix is really good in this deck because you can use it during your own turn, you can use it during your opponent's turn, so if you have multiples it doesn't hurt you, because you want to resolve Sarah as much as possible so you can get the advantage you need in order to be able to close out the game. Because as you've already mentioned, as you've already seen, I haven't mentioned yet, but I do not play Utopia Double. I think Utopia Double is a win more card. I think it's a great play that you try to do, and sometimes you just tunnel vision on it, and you end up losing the game because you try to do that play. So I don't think it's worth playing in the deck, especially now with Gravedigger's Hole. You can just deal 2k damage every time you use that card. You don't need to play a OTK machine in a trap deck. Every deck has its own win condition, and some decks just like playing it slow. They just want to poke, 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 and they win eventually. This is what this deck wants to do. I think Utopia Double is completely useless, at least for this deck. If you try to use it, it's going to get stopped. You already used all your resources on it, and then you pretty much can't do anything after that. So I don't like this win condition, not in this deck. The next card is actually the best trap in the deck, even better than Traptrix, 3 Shade Brigandine, because if you don't have your Parallel Exceed, you can combine this with Sarah, because it's a normal trap that you can activate on the turn you set it, and pretty much get your 3 Traptrix from the deck and the 3 Trap Hole. And this is the reason you cannot run Impermanence in the deck, because if you go second and you end up using Impermanence, you will have a trap in the grave, so you will not be able to use Shade Brigandine the turn is set. So keep that in mind. You cannot run Impermanence in this deck. The next card is 3 Lost Wind. This card could be replaced with Titanocider, depending on which are your preferences, because Titanocider, this is the new secret rare trap from the Eternity Code set that negates monsters from the extra deck. It's a card that recycles itself infinitely, unlike Lost Wind, which gets banished if it's reset and then reused. But Lost Wind is actually a card that stops any kind of special summon monster, and in this deck it's better because you want to protect your Sarah. You don't always need to negate the extra deck monster, just need to negate the first monster they summon so they don't won't be able to run over Sarah. So that's why I think this card is a little bit better than Titanocider in the deck. But if you want to run Titanocider because you think it gives you more value because it keeps recycling itself infinitely, then yeah, you can go for it. It's a really good card. 3 Compulsory. This is the card that protects your Sarah from the normal summon monsters most of the time, because, like I said, the big weakness of the deck, if your opponent knows what they're doing, then they can just normal summon anything and run over Sarah, and that's pretty much your whole advantage gone. So that's why 3 Compulsory, along with 3 Traptrix, helps you protect your Sarah. And I do play some counter traps because counter traps are really good. Unfortunately, they don't trigger Sarah, but these cards are really good. Three Solemn Strike, because you can stop pretty much anything. If you want to set up a board going second, it's very hard because if your opponent has like something that can pop a card on the field, and just normal summoning a Traptrix and going for zero doesn't give you anything, it actually will give you an egg. So if you just set your backer like Lost Winds and Strikes, and your opponent tries to push for game and use the effects, you can just clear their board this way and use your Traptrix monsters during the next turn. So that's why I think Strike is a really good card. And three Solemn Judgment, because Solemn Judgment helps you prevent your field getting blown away by cards like Evenly Matched and Lightning Storm, which are running everywhere. And unfortunately, trap decks get destroyed by these kind of cards. So I think you have to max out on your Solemn Judgment in order to be able to compete against such cards. Now let's go to the extra deck. 2 Traptrix Sarah. She's by far the best card in the deck. She gives you so much advantage. When you use a normal trap, you special summon a Traptrix on the deck, and when you use a Traptrix monster effect, you get to set a whole normal trap from the deck. So you use this during your own turn, during your opponent's turn, you get infinite amount of pluses. So as long as you can protect this card, then you're going to win the game for sure. And the only one Link monster I play is just one Nightmare Phoenix, because sometimes you need to deal with a problematic Floodgate or something. You don't really want to bring a big Link on the field, because if you just use too many resources on something like a Boral Sword and Apollosa, then you just lose a lot if it gets stopped. So I think just the one Phoenix is good. And with Sarah, you can actually use its Collect effect to draw one card. Now, the Xyz monsters are the most important part of the deck, so this is where we're going to focus. The first one is the most important one, which is Rafflesia, and it's not because of her effect to use a whole normal trap from the deck. That's good as well, but she protects Sarah. She protects all other Traptrix monsters from being targeted, destroyed by card effects, destroyed by battle. So if you have this and Sarah on the field, your opponent cannot run over Sarah, so you're going to resolve Sarah. And Rafflesia has 2500 defense, so your opponent cannot deal with her unless they commit to the board. And once they commit to the board, this is where their trap cards are going to stop them. The trap cards are not good against normal summonable monsters, they're good against bigger combos. So that's why having Rafflesia is really good. And like I said, because of Great Yugioh's Trap Hole, Rafflesia is actually the Xyz monster you want to always summon turn 1, just in case your opponent has Nibiru, even in game 1, yes, because you never know what you're going to face. So you don't want to risk losing your Sarah and your rank 4 to a Nibiru, so that's why I think you don't need to grade for a Redoer, you don't need to grade for a Dweller, just summoning Rafflesia turn 1 is actually the way to go. Now, there's also a new monster from the Eternity Code, one Xyz monster, Traptrix Alameros, which is actually a good card because it helps you push. This card, you can detach 2 materials to bring a Traptrix back from the grave, so not only do you get the special summon effect of the Traptrix, so if you summon a Mermello, you can just pop a back row, but she's also 2200 attack, and you add on the attack points of the monster you brought back from the grave, so she's actually a tool to make you deal more damage along with Gravedigger's Hole. So that's why I think even now, Utopia Double is not necessary at all. Maybe before you could argue that the deck did not do any damage, but now with Thalomeros and Gravedigger's Hole, the deck has ways to deal more damage. One Redoer, because of Shade Brigadier, and it says if you summon, you don't want to summon this early game, you're going to summon during the mid game, because if you summon it early, then you can get Nibiru. Yes, you can tag it out, but then you won't have a guaranteed trap card, so you won't be able to have the guaranteed pop, the knockback to the deck. So that's why you need to be able to summon your Rafflesia, and then once you start bringing out more monsters, then you can summon your Redoer, you can summon your Tornado Dragon, you can summon your Dweller, and pretty much keep adding all of those negations so you can win the game. One Tornado Dragon against fellow backer decks like Altergeist or Subterror. One Dweller, because Orcasts are going to become really huge once again because of Girsu, so that's why you need this, and it's also really good against Eldritch, because Eldritch need to be able to use all the traps in the grave to recycle them to keep getting more traps on the deck. You can also need to use Eldritch's effect from the grave to bring it on the field, because if you stop them from having Eldritch on the field, the deck cannot do anything, so that's pretty much what you need to do. Stop any card effect that brings Eldritch on the field. And one Baguska, because against decks like Salamangreat, this card completely shut them down. And some fusion monsters because of Super Poly. I actually play a lot of because the deck is not tight at all, so I even included one monster that's actually very situational, but it could come up because of the new ban list. So let's begin with one, Starving Venom. Obviously, it's the one you're going to see the most. Dragostapelia, for those fields that bring out fusions and a dark and not just 2 darks, because yes, these fields do happen. One Triple Veritum, because if you want to grid out and if you bring out 3 dark monsters on the field, then you get really punished by Super Poly in this card, because not only do you get rid of 3 monsters your opponent controls, but this card also negates summons from the extra deck, which is huge. One Mud Dragon for some random matchups that bring out the same attribute, different types, and this actually really protects your monsters, because at the beginning of your turn, you can make this an Earth monster, and then all your Traptrix will not be targeted. So that's really good. one Earth Golem, which is the new Violet Chimera. It's much more generic than Violet Chimera, but it's mainly for Salamangreat, but it can be used against other matchups. And the last one is one Brotherhood with Firefist Swan, and this is because Zodiacs are actually making a comeback. They're not the most relevant deck, but since they exist, I think if you have the space in the extra deck, just run this card. It just needs two Beast Warriors to be a fusion summon, so you can just fuse with two Zoos with Super Poly. So you can get rid of their Trident and their Heimerkong if they don't have already on the field the Megaclops. But if they have the Megaclops, then you can just summon Mud Dragon. So no matter what field they end on, you can crack with Super Poly. So that's why I think Super Poly is really good. So, yep, that's the deck, guys. It's actually a really fun deck to play. I'm having a lot more fun with this deck than when I'm playing Altergeist, even though they look very similar, but actually they're not. So if you want to play a trap deck but you're not really into Altergeists, I really recommend this deck to you. It's really, really good right now. And we're going to see exactly how it's going to perform with the Eternity Code getting released. So, yep, that's the deck, guys. Again, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and we'll see you next time.